begin, as I said, thanks so much to everyone who's joining on Zoom. I believe this is also being streamed on the Swedish Chamber's Facebook page on Facebook Live. So there's a lot of people joining us from all around the world via that stream as well. I am Lauren. I work for Redress. So we are an environmental charity, Hong Kong based. We were founded about 12 years ago in Hong Kong. And our core mission is to reduce waste and pollution in the fashion industry. And today we're going to be talking a lot about sustainability in fashion, both challenges and opportunities. We are live on this Zoom link from 4 o'clock Hong Kong time until 5:15 Hong Kong time. And we have two SWEDTalks for you today. Our first talk is going to be between 4 o'clock and 4:30. Then we're going to have a 15-minute break, and you can all stay on this Zoom link to listen to our next talk, which is from 4:45 to 5:15. So these talks today have been organized by the Swedish Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong and the Consulate General of Sweden in Hong Kong, and they are supported by the Hong Kong Design Center. So we thank all of those guys for bringing us together today. And yeah, without further ado, very warm welcome to the guests for our first SWEDTalk. So we've got Sarah Fung here and Malin Lundahl. Hello, how are you both?
Hi, how's it going? Thank you for having me.
Absolute
Thank you so
pleasure.
much. Looking forward to our talk today.
Yes, me too. So I know Sarah and Malin already quite well. But for the benefit of our audience, I would just like each of you to give us a brief introduction to yourselves. So perhaps, Sarah, you can start first.
Hello. Those of you who are in Hong Kong might already know Hula, but I'm the founder and CEO of Hula, which is a consignment platform for the resale of designer women's wear. We offer currently around 5,000 pieces across 1,500 different designer brands at up to 95% off. And we provide a service where we do everything for the consignor. So, you know, we have a butler service where we upload and, you know, we store the items and everything else. And for that, we charge a fee, and that's how our business model works. We started around 3.5 years ago. So, yeah, picking up speed.
Cool, thank you, Sarah. Picking your brain about how the whole model works a little bit later on as well.
Yeah.
Okay, then maybe I can do a short introduction as well. So my name is Malin Lundahl. I'm the Sustainability Manager for H&M Greater China. So H&M wants to offer fashion and quality at the best price in a sustainable way. So I hope within our discussion today, you will learn a little bit more about that and feel inspired about what we do at H&M.
Awesome, thank you, Malin. So I think most people coming in today will have some sort of knowledge about fashion's impact on the environment. I mean, the topic for today's talk is sustainability in fashion. But I think in order to set the tone for our discussion today, it would be really useful if we could just share together what we think are some of the most pressing challenges that the industry is facing today, and the things that we really need to put high on our priority lists to address. So I can start talking about the one that Redress really focuses on, which I think is one of the core challenges, and that is textile waste. So just to give the audience a bit of a sense of what that problem is, all around the world, in very basic terms, we are throwing away lots and lots and lots of clothes every single day. So in Hong Kong, the statistic is 196 tons of clothing is going to landfill every day. That's just clothing. So we worked that out on a weight basis to be around 1.3 million t-shirts every day just in Hong Kong. And if you think about that on a global scale, it's enormous. I mean, around the world, they say one garbage truck full of textiles is landfilled or burnt every second. So waste is I think, a really core sustainability issue and one that we focus on a lot here.
Yeah, and to add to that, obviously, this is how, we kind of started the business, was because I was working in luxury retail and managed and actually found out how much waste there was, not only from, the kind of supply side and what was in the store, but also how much my friends had and my contacts, how much clothing they were buying and discarding at the same time, and not really knowing where to and how to discard it. And that's how Hula was born, really. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really know about the devastating facts of fashion until I started Hula. I did it more because I'm a sort of person who wants to repurpose things, coming from UK and, having been brought up with secondhand most of my life was just a no-brainer. So coming to Hong Kong and realizing there was nothing like this here made me want to start this. But then I found out about the the amount of textiles waste there was and the polluting side of fashion, which I was slowly learning about, and it fired me up to kind of continue and make this part of my mission. But yeah, I think there's a huge problem. I think fashion needs to change. I mean, I came from a luxury angle, so I feel like luxury fashion has been very slow to change. And it's only now that they're starting to kind of wake up and do something about it. And it's all about having the big brands kind of take initiative, because I think it comes really from the top. Until we make sustainable fashion sexy, it's not going to ride. And I think that's what's happening now. It's becoming sexier. And I think there's now the word sustainable fashion isn't tied to something that people no longer want to wear. So I think that's one of the biggest changes I can see in the next, in the last 2 years or so.
If you could pick perhaps one big challenge or one big fact that you've sort of learned in your work at Hula that you found really shocking or inspired you to continue in your journey with Hula, what might it be?
I think it's the fact that people in Asia and in Hong Kong actually don't value secondhand product. And there's a lot to do with superstition and the fact that if you wear secondhand product, you're wearing the previous spirits or whatever, And I think it came from when people used to pass on clothing. It used to be from dead people, basically. And so there's this kind of like old connotation that you're going to basically wear the bad luck. And this is the thing that I really want to change, and I just think is ridiculous. So that is changing, and it's great to see people, kind of buying pre-owned nowadays.
I'm certainly wearing secondhand today and hopefully getting all of the good luck of the previous owner and
feeling lucky.
There's all sorts of different kinds of luck we might inherit when we wear other people's clothes. And I'm sure you're wearing secondhand today, Sarah.
Always.
Always. And Malin, not secondhand, but something from H&M's Conscious collection. Or what are you wearing today?
Today I'm wearing from our Conscious exclusive collection. So this is our collection that we launches twice per year. We really want to push innovation within sustainable fashion. So we try new type of materials, new types of more sustainable processes in different ways. And this is one way to first try them out, and then we can bring them to scale. So today I'm wearing a dress from that in Renew, recycled polyester material. And I'm also wearing a recycled metal choker as well. So you can really, I often feel like people associate sustainable fashion with maybe not so glamorous, or they're more connected to natural type of thing. So I think it's great to showcase what we can do. I also actually have here a pair of sunglasses from the same collection, which are made of CO2 from the air. So basically you capture CO2 and you can make actual like polymers out of that and make these sunglasses. So this is a brand new material we'll never worked with before.
I mean, some of these fabric innovations that we're seeing today are just mind-blowing. I mean, glasses made out of the air, things made out of fish skin or mushrooms, or sweat, fabrics grown out of sweat. We're seeing some really very interesting, and I would say sexy innovations in the fashion industry. You said, Sarah, we need to make sustainable fashion sexy. Well, I definitely think from a science front, from a tech and innovation front, it is very sexy. And talking a little bit more then about materials and innovation in materials, and going back to what we were talking about with challenges, can you tell us a little bit, Malin, what are the challenges with the materials that we're currently using with traditional fibers?
There's a lot of challenges. I mean, in general, climate impact is estimated at about 10% of all CO2 emissions actually come from the textile industry. And a big part of that is from the material step, where we grow and make and dye the fabrics that are used in the garments. So here we need a lot of innovation and more sustainable materials. And we also know that we need to focus a lot on recycled and sustainably sourced materials. So this is one key area for us, where we have a goal of using 100% recycled or sustainably sourced materials by 2030. And we're at 57% today. So we're on our way, but not there right yet. But it can be different things. Like one challenging area is with the recycling of textile to textile. So too often we use mixed fibers when we make the threads, and then to be able to separate those into high quality new fibers for something new, it's an area where we had focused a lot, and where we still need as an industry a lot of innovation and progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's something we see a lot of at Redress, focusing on waste. Just in 1 second, we seem to have lost Sarah. So if our lovely friends, Gustav and Jen at the Swedish Chamber could just get in touch with Sarah and make sure she's okay. But in the meantime,
we will do so.
Great, thank you. I'll keep talking to you about recycling, because I think a lot of people don't know that that really is one of the key sustainability challenges in fashion at the moment, is that it is very difficult to recycle clothing. Less than 1% of all fibers around the world are recycled back into new fibers. And industry-wide, about 87% of all materials that are used to make our clothes end up landfilled or burnt. So we're recovering very few of the materials. And I just want to emphasize that it's not necessarily for want of effort. The technology required there is very complex. Malin, you touched on the difficulty of separating blended fibers as one example. Another big challenge with recycling is that actually our clothes are made of all sorts of different components. You know, often we've got zips and buttons and threads, and those components are not currently able to just be put in one machine that'll magically, you know, separate them all apart. They need to be separated manually. So there's a humongous amount of manpower required to cut out buttons, cut out zips, cut out seams. That really slows down the recycling process at present. And one more, sorry if I'm boring you all with facts about recycling challenges, but another really important one is that in order to recycle our clothes, we have to know what they're made from. So very simple things like making sure that the care label is intact. If you as a consumer cut out the care label because it's itchy, when that goes to a recycler to be recycled, it's very challenging for them to know what material that is and therefore how to recycle it. So there's a big role for tech there, both in figuring out how to separate blended fibers, how to identify fibers without having to look at the label, how to separate things like zips and buttons without having to do it manually. Sarah, we're so glad that we have you back.
I'm so sorry.
You just missed me describing textile recycling in details. You've not missed a lot.
It wasn't the subject matter, I promise, that cut me off. But yeah, I know the challenges because I see product coming through all the time at Hula, and we have to look through every single detail. And you're right, you know, there's parts where I'm like, don't cut the labels out, don't you know, try and look after your pieces better, and we try and educate people about that. But yeah, things that we never thought about before we did pre-owned. And yeah, it's a tricky business for sure.
Somebody's written in the chat, Monica, buy less. And that's exactly right. And actually, we can move on to the next part of our talk, where we are going to be talking about different kinds of models. Given that recycling clothing is so challenging, we need to be looking towards different kinds of models that actually enable us to buy less. So we're using fewer natural resources. We're creating less pollution while we're making clothes, and then keep what we have in use for a lot longer.
Yeah, I mean, I would also say buy secondhand, because this stuff is already here. And for me, I mean, I love what people are doing with fabric tech and upcycling and recycling, but these things are not going to be resolved overnight. It's going to take some time for all of these things to be mainstream. For me, I actually believe that buying secondhand is the fastest way, or buying nothing, of course, is the fastest way that we're going to resolve this problem that we have. And I guess, you know, for what we do, like buying better quality is always better, because you can keep it in the circular for longer. But yeah, if those who haven't, then they should really try buying secondhand. Once you do, you get kind of hooked, because you're like, you know, it's a no-brainer.
Well, it's very, there's so much variety when you buy secondhand, right? There's a lot of variety, so you can be very stylish, but it's also great for your wallet.
Yeah, for sure.
As well as, of course, being great for the planet, which is what we're here talking about today. So Sarah's spoken about secondhand. I was going to sort of bring the conversation together by talking generally about circular business models. So again, I'm sure a lot of you on this talk already know what we mean by that. But to give you a very quick oversight, a linear business model, so the opposite, is one where we take lots of natural resources to make our stuff. We then make it and often cause waste and pollution along the way. The consumer buys it and then they throw it away when it breaks or when they don't want it anymore. So a circular business model basically is an alternative model that tries to keep resources in the loop and in use for a lot longer and keep them out of landfill. So essentially, we're using our stuff for as long as we can. We're repairing it when it breaks. We're using it again. We're giving it to somebody else to reuse. When we can't reuse it anymore, we're taking it apart and we're remaking it for another round of use. And when we really can't use it anymore, then we're going to look to recycle it. So in this system, basically, resources are not wasted, and instead we're feeding them back into the system. And in fashion, secondhand is one example. Another example might be rental. So those are two ways that you can allow multiple consumers to wear the same item of clothing, or simply a repair service that enables a customer to keep their own clothes in use for longer. So let's start, I guess, with secondhand. And Sarah, you have the most experience in that space with Hula, but I have a little bit of experience in that space at Redress, because we do sell a percentage of the clothes that we collect at our pop-up shops. So can you tell us from a business perspective how a secondhand model actually works in practice, and maybe some of the challenges that are involved?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have offline and online space, and I think I can answer that, you know, from both sides, because I think it's probably a lot simpler if you only do offline and you process the items, which actually takes a long time. You know, you have to check the pieces, you have to check for stains and snags and everything else. And then we need to price the items, we need to list the items. And because we have online, we photograph the items and yeah, we put them up on site, and we have an e-commerce platform. So for that, actually, you know, for processing one item, it's actually quite a lot of work. And so that's why we've kind of stuck to, you know, what we do in our business model is we collect branded clothing. And I know someone messaged before, I've actually lost the message because I had to sign back in, but yeah, we only take high-end designer brands for that reason, because I would love to be able to take everything. It's just, it's not really worth our while processing items that are originally quite low in cost, because we just don't earn the money back from it. So that's why our business model, you know, works in this way. And I think in Asia and Hong Kong, there's a lot of people wanting to buy designer, and there's also a lot of people selling designer products. So it actually is a very good place to collect from in Hong Kong. And all the pieces that we have here are actually really, really good quality. I think people here really look after their clothes, and they tend to buy a lot. So for now, it's great that, you know, we have a really good supply. Thankfully, we haven't had to sift through too many things that, you know, that are too awful. But, you know, of course, that's part of our job. You know,
I think that's what we get at Redress. We get the much wider pile of all sorts of things, of old socks and underwear, and
yeah,
won't even tell you what.
But yeah, we do have to occasionally go around to people's houses and, you know, do like a deep kind of dive, and yeah, sometimes, yeah, we get some little shocks and horrors, but it's part of our job. And, you know, I like to repurpose things, and I think this is kind of like the bigger message, and having to do it in a more luxurious way, where people in Asia suddenly feel like they want to buy it, and it doesn't feel for them too much like secondhand.
Cool, thanks, Erin. Yeah, I mean, I sympathize with a lot of the challenges that you talked about as well at Redress. We collect about 50 tons of clothing a year, and then we redistribute that, some for resale, most goes to charities, and then what can't be redistributed for reuse gets recycled or downcycled. But certainly just the manpower and logistics that's required to actually sort through clothing by hand, and that's how it's done here and all around the world, is enormous, as well as you say, like costs of logistics and warehousing. When the quality of the clothing is quite low and the price point is low, it does make a difficult business case to make it worthwhile to then on-sell that to another customer. Marlene, I'm interested to hear as well about how H&M is incorporating circular business models, and how that might be different, or what sorts of challenges you face as a much bigger retailer that usually uses a traditional retail model in incorporating those kinds of models.
Yes, sure, I would be glad to. So I would say the last 5 years or so, we have been experimenting a lot more with these circular business models in different ways, such as we have worked together with Resell, which is a European-based online platform, both for our sister brand COS as well as our sister brand & Other Stories, where we sort of create this platform for customers to sell to each other their previous loved items. We also, in the region over here, COS has worked together with Y Closet in China market to actually rent out clothing and try that model as well. So I would say in all these cases, we as a big brand have partnered up with smaller businesses that are experts within this type of circular services. Because what you need to really set up is a little bit different compared to usual. For example, once an item has been rented out, it needs to come back and it needs to be washed and cleaned and ready to be rented out again. So there's a more sort of other parts of the value chain that changes a bit. In Sweden, we have in one of our H&M stores, we rent out dresses similar to this, like this type of more maybe higher price point, one type of occasion dress that you wouldn't use so much. And that's great for the wallet of the customers, and it's great for the environment. And that has been very positively received in Sweden, for example.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you sort of how it was received. We heard a bit from Sarah talking about how it's really growing in Asia, appetite for secondhand, especially for luxury secondhand, which is fantastic. And yeah, I'd love to know how it's received by H&M's customers, who are maybe different to the kinds of people who would seek out and shop for secondhand through Hula.
I would say that, I mean, you really need to know your market and your customer, right? So you need to ensure that there is a market need or push for a market need for it. So that's also why we sort of pick different markets for different tests, and then we can scale up depending on sort of the reception. So what you said earlier also about mending and taking care and prolonging the life of garments, we offer that in a few markets as well as like an in-shop tailor service, so that customers can come and have their things altered or repaired, and also have products that prolong the lifetime of garments in different ways, such as detergents that can be used at lower temperatures. So we are very much trying this in different ways throughout the world.
That's such an important part of actually. I mean, often we see, getting a bit of feedback, often we see at redress things come through that might even be designer brands, but they have a small stain on them, or the button's missing, or the zipper's broken. And as a small charity, we just don't have the resource often to fix those things. And so sometimes they can end up as waste, even though actually they just required better care. So literally, as a consumer, just by caring for our clothes better, we can make an enormous difference, not only to the lifespan of the clothing within our use, but also to the opportunities for reuse afterwards.
I know it breaks my heart when I have to turn away items just because there's a tear or there's a stain. Like, I mean, I would love for Hula to have like an atelier one day where we constantly are fixing things and making, you know, trying to kind of resell them. But there's so many good things that pass us that we just don't have the means to do it because we're too small, and it's not going to make sense for us money-wise right now. But yeah, hopefully one day, you know, that whole sense of repurposing will suddenly become, you know, full circle if we can do that. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is a consumer education piece too. Like, we talk a lot about what brands can do in terms of using innovative fibers, changing their business models, but also just the messaging that we give to customers when we sell them products. It's very important. So I touched on earlier, for example, about not cutting your care label out. That's a key piece of messaging. But yeah, also messaging about proper care, how to wash things properly. That has an enormous impact on its potential to have a second life. So
yeah, also like maybe not washing things as much.
Yeah, definitely, both for its climate impact and water and energy impact, but also to extend its lifespan, for sure.
But you need to do it socially.
How many times we've worn our clothes today.
Yeah. Need to be a bit social with that, right? You don't want to lose all your friends.
Absolutely. Malin, you have spoken to me previously, and I found it really interesting. So perhaps before we finish, you can tell us about how important it is to educate consumers, and to sort of bring them on this journey to circularity, because there's sort of a long way for them to go. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, sure. I don't know if you can see me. I'm having some technical problems, but hopefully you can hear me. Okay, great. So basically, we really believe that we have an important role as a brand to educate our consumers and empower them with knowledge so they can take more sustainable shopping decisions. And as an example, we work a lot with transparency. So that is about really sharing true facts about products to the consumer so that they can take these decisions. So right now, currently, we work with our H&M conscious green hang tags, where we only use like third-party credited different types of certification schemes of different types of materials. But we're also working a lot on our H&M.com webpage, where you can go in and get partly material information, but also see exactly where is it made, like in which country, even which factory has made this garment. But we want to take it even further together with others in the industry through the work we do in SAC, where we're pushing for a HIG index. And that's basically a sustainable index that you can put on your hang tag and show how sustainable is this product compared to this in an easy way. So this is something we've been active in for 10 years, but now it's so many different stakeholders coming together and very complex data coming from the value chain. So hopefully 2021 will be a big year for SIC to more roll out towards consumers in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds very cool, and I would be interested to see how it's done. Before this sort of talk started, Sarah and I were just having a quick chat about just how complicated this issue is, how complex the issue of sustainability is, and then how complex the fashion supply chain is. And I think another element of complexity is like actually what is a sustainable garment and what are the impacts of different fibers. And even experts find it complicated. So how do you then condense that into something digestible for consumers that they can understand? So I do a lot of education work at Redress, speaking to kids. And one of the things I love asking kids is where they think cotton comes from. And I think about 80% of kids I speak to think cotton comes from sheep. And it's very fun and it's very amusing and we have a great time with it. But, you know, I wonder actually how much more do adults know? Of course, they know cotton comes from plants, but you know, I think our level of knowledge really about fiber impacts and about impacts across the supply chain as general consumers is really small. So it's a big job for the marketing team as well, I think, to work out how to communicate that to consumers in an effective and simple way.
Well, we were always taught that cotton was natural and cotton was you know, good for the planet. And this was something that a lot of people didn't realize till now, you know, the effects it has. So yeah, it's really interesting actually.
Well, I'm very afraid that I have to say goodbye. We've already used up our half-an-hour time slot, but it's been so nice talking to you. I feel like we could speak forever, and I'm sure we'll have another opportunity to speak again. Should we see quickly if there's any questions in the chat? We've already gone over this question for Sarah. Are the things you sell brand new or secondhand? And they are secondhand, except Sarah, I'm sure you sell a lot of brand new with tags, things that people have pre-owned but just never worn.
But they're all from private clients, so nothing from brands.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so we're going to have a 15-minute break, everybody, and then our next session is going to start at 4:45 on this same link. Please do stay tuned. We're going to be speaking to Daniel Wickland and Pontus Carlson from Happy Rabbit about the role of technology in sustainability. So we've spoken a lot this morning about challenges, well, this afternoon, about challenges. We're going to learn about what the role is of tech in bringing solutions to some of those challenges. So thank you again, Sarah, and thank you, Malin, and speak to you again soon.
See you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.